Welcome everyone to this webinar. As you might see, we're basically right on the clock, so we're just going to give people another 2 minutes to dial in and then we will get started. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar on advanced dashboards using our Design Studio extensions. My name is Ingo Hilgefort. I'm the VP of Product Management and also an SAP mentor working for Visual BI, and I will be your host today for this webinar. Just before I start with the presentation, in case there are any questions during the webinar, feel free to use the questions panel and we will leave time at the end of the presentation to answer those questions as good and as quick as we can. So before we start, just a quick legal disclaimer. As part of this presentation, there will be information that is not in the product yet. We will also talk about the roadmap, so those things might change in future versions. We're going to first talk about who is Visual BI. I want to give you a little bit of a background who Visual BI is. We're going to take a look why you should take a look at some of our extensions for Design Studio, what the value is of these extensions. I'm going to give you an overview of the extensions and some of the highlights we just released this week as part of our second release, and then we're going to take a look at some live demos, how you can use the extensions as part of your next project. Visual BI is a very young company. As you can see, the company was established in 2010, so it's a company that's 5-year-old, and we are around about 150 people around the world with offices in Canada, in the US, and India. We have two main focus areas. The one part is the services part, where we offer training, we offer consulting, and the other part is the product area, where we offer extensions to products such as dashboards, former Excelsiors, and Design Studio. Our focus is really on SAP BI and the analytics part, so we have experience in topics such as BW, BPC, HANA, and Business Objects BI. As you can see, we have a lot of different areas of experience. We have customers in the different industry areas. We have experience in topics such as hardware sizing, topics such as BW on HANA, mobile BI, and if you take a look, we have more than 50 consultants in these areas, and right now our pure development team is the size of 20 people focusing on creating extensions in the Design Studio area, but also not to forget the team also has experience in this topic based on former Excelsiors, now named dashboards. So why should you consider the Design Studio extensions, and what might be some of the pain points you already have experienced as part of a Design Studio project? We're focusing on four main areas. If we go from the top to the bottom, we're looking at charts, we're looking at maps, we're looking at selectors and filters, and we're looking at topics around making the life of the developer easier. If you're looking at Design Studio right now, you will notice that there's limited visualization capabilities, and that's exactly where our charts come in. We give you the opportunity to add around about 40 additional charts, and all our charts come with standard functionality such as drill down, print, export, and we also offer a data utility tool which allows you to reuse data sources for these charts, which helps you specifically on the performance part. The second area is the mapping. And you probably have seen Design Studio in the latest version, release 1.5, does provide mapping as well. But if you start looking into it, you will notice that it is more basic functionality. We offer already mapping since Design Studio 1.3. We offer a different kind of maps. We have regional maps, for example, US and the States, or Germany and the districts. But we also offer maps that can go down to street level details. But not only do we offer these kind of maps, we also integrated the functionality with your existing business object systems. I will show that in the demo. And we also have features that allow you to quickly compare additional dimensions, not geographically dimensions, around your measures. The third area is the filtering. And here we have some very unique filters. We're talking about time-based filters that quickly allow you to compare quarters and months and years. But for us, we also offer the ability to actually add alerting to the filtering so that the user, when looking at the dashboard, doesn't have to go through the whole list of, for example, products, but instead he sees actually a visual clue where he needs to focus on. This could mean perhaps based on the revenue, based on the profit, and they can then right away focus on these product areas. And last but not least is our developer focus. Here we actually provide you with components such as JavaScript boxes, an HTML box, a search box, scenarios that allow you to create a menu structure. So not necessarily around the actual visual appeal of your dashboard, it's more about helping the developer to add standard functionality such as a search to the dashboard without having to coding everything. So what can we actually help you as part of your dashboarding project? As you can see, we can add additional data visualization capabilities. Topics like gouges, topics like different kind of charts, a dual axis, multi-axis chart. Those kind of things are part of our extensions. We allow you to quickly actually combine your data with maps without having to go and actually create some specific files that allow you to build these maps. We have very intuitive filtering capabilities where it's not just a list of products, where we actually combine them with alerting. And then we give you options that speed up the process of building dashboards. You will see that also as our release 2 came out, we're allowing you to use an Excel spreadsheet as a data source. So if you want to build a quick prototype, you don't have to rely every single time on BW or HANA for the data source. You could simply mock up the data in a spreadsheet and based on that, create your dashboard. So let me give you a few details before we actually go into the product and see some very interesting live demos. As I mentioned, the first main area of our extensions are the charts. We right now, as part of our release 2, adding more than 40 additional charts to Design Studio. We're allowing you to actually see all the properties that these charts have, so you can influence them during the design time, during the runtime, using scripts as well. Our charts come with standard features, such as a print, such as an export. We also offer the capability of drill down charts into Design Studio, which if you start looking at standard Design Studio, you will notice that there is no drill down in the standard charts. And as I mentioned before, our data utility tool allows you to reuse multiple sources across the charts, which helps with the performance. Here's an example dashboard which shows one of the features, which is a plot band. Think about you have perhaps seasonal products, or you're looking at actual versus budget, and perhaps you want to highlight the forecast in the dashboard, which can easily be done with a plot band. The second part is our maps. Here you can see the different kind of maps we offer. On the left, we can see a typical Coral Plus map showing United States. You see a bubble map. You see more detailed maps on the right-hand side, which also allows you, and I will show that, to go down to street level. But for us, it's important. We're not just going to stop at actually the maps itself. We want to go to the next step, and that's why we integrated your existing assets, things like allowing you to navigate from a map, for example, to a web intelligence report, to a crystal report, so that you can actually have a real closed loop scenario. Just two examples. You can see the street level maps. On the top left, you see, for example, a map out of the US with a marker layer where you can select the marker, and then on the right-hand side, you see more details in the dashboard. So our maps also do support things like actually handing over the context, there's scripting behind it. All those items are part of the map components. Coming to our selectors, you can see the selectors we have. You can see the period selector, how we call them, and you might already get the idea where they are very actually unique. You can see we have the option to click months and years, or months and quarter and years. But the key thing is you can actually have a multi-select. So these period selectors allow you to quickly compare, for example, Q1 across multiple years. So think about you're looking at revenue, and perhaps your Q1 is always the best quarter. So you could actually very quickly, with a few clicks, compare 4 years, each of them showing Q1, instead of actually using a standard calendar control and entering multiple time ranges. On the right-hand side, you see our grid box with alerts. So instead of actually the user going down a list of products without having perhaps some visual clue, here you can actually very clearly see that Chromebooks is the product that I should focus on, because obviously something is not right. Here a dashboard again with both components, where you quickly can see kind of like how these components could be used, allowing the user to filter the data, and to actually give a visual clue on where the user should be focused on. Which brings us to the next part, which is what we call utilities. Here, if you look on the left-hand side, we have components such as a script box, a search box, an HTML box, basically components that you probably will need in a lot of your dashboards, but we actually want to give you the component out of the box so that you don't have to actually code a lot in this area. We simply want to help the dashboard developer to save some time and actually use these components out of the box. And this was also an area as part of release 2 where we added a lot of different components. Which brings me to our release 2. We basically just announced this week our second release. So around about 3 months after our first release, you will notice we're planning for a 3-month release cycle here. And what I would like to do is just to give you a few highlights and then go into the systems and actually show the real demos. So first of all, we added a lot of different charts. You can see as part of the second version, we added things such as waterfall charts, bullet charts. We added things as a dual axis and a multi-axis chart. We added things as a sparkline chart. You probably have seen them all, those typical very kind of like small charts. Some call them sparklines, some call them micro charts. But also we added drill down charts. So in Design Studio, we now support things as a pie, a column, a funnel chart as drill downs, which is very important. This is not something you will actually get out of the box with Design Studio. And then you see at the bottom of the slide, and I will go into more details, 2 very important features we added. First of all, the conditional formatting. So with our components, we now allow you to set up conditional formatting for charts. And this conditional formatting can be based on 2 things. 1, on the measure, or on the members of your dimension. So to give you 2 concrete examples, you could have, for example, a bar chart showing the profit along the last 12 months, and you would like to highlight the profit based on the revenue. So you do actually have the choice to highlight the numbers in the chart based on another measure. You are not limited to the measures in the chart itself. The second option is allowing you to actually color code basically your members. So if you prefer that you would like to have certain products in certain colors all the time, you can easily do so. For example, you can see I used the example of cars. If you would like to see Ferrari as the product in red, you can easily do that. The second part is the identical scale. If you have multiple charts as part of your dashboard and you want to compare the numbers, an identical scale becomes very important to avoid actually that people confuse numbers. Here we have the option now to use the charts and actually set them on an identical scale. And this will be an identical scale at runtime as well. So even if you start filtering the data, both charts will always be on an identical scale. In addition, we added new properties to our charts. So we allow you to choose if you would like to see the subtotals or if you would like to see the grand totals in the chart. We also allow you to choose if you would like to see the key, the text, or both based on the dimension in the chart. And we're also allowing you now completely to rotate things like axis labels and Y labels and the data labels, as you can see in the bottom right. And also we actually enabled a multi-select. So if you want to, for example, use the selection as a filter, you're not limited to just one. You can actually have a multi-select as well. Moving on to the next, we actually do also support theming now. And we're going a little bit in a different direction as standard Design Studio here. So instead of you having to code the style sheet, you can actually click simply on our properties. You will be guided to our website. You will find a little tool that allows you to pretty much color code your chart. You can define things like your background color. You click on the export, and we're actually going to give you the code that you need pretty much to paint, let's say, the chart. So instead of you having to code that, we're taking that kind of like out of your hands. We're going to deliver the style sheet code that you need, and actually you can then define your corporate colors here. Coming to the maps and the enhancements we did, as I mentioned, for us the mapping area is not just about actually showing the map and perhaps showing a marker layer or showing a choropleth map, but we do see maps basically as part of your overall BI landscape. And what we did in the recent version, and I will show that in the demo as well, is being able to actually use the map and navigate to your existing assets. We do support the option to navigate to crystal reports, web intelligence, analysis, and to design studio assets, and we are able to hand over the complete context. So in the example here, you simply click on a marker and you would be able to actually filter down the report based on the information of the map. Coming to our filters, two additional items we did here is, first of all, the ability to completely freely define a custom format. Our calendar controls allow you to define how you would like to send the data actually to the backend. So as an example, some of you might have the calendar months as 2 digits of the month and 4 digits of the year. Some of you might have 4 digits of the year and 2 digits of the month. And instead of you actually coding it, we're allowing you to freely define that, and our calendar component will then take care of actually sending the right format to the underlying data source. In addition, based on the feedback from our customers, we added the option to offset your calendar to adjust for your fiscal year. So if your fiscal year, for example, starts in July, and in July 2015 your fiscal year 2016 starts, you can actually offset your calendar for that, and it will take care of sending the right values to your data source. The other component that was very often requested by our customers is a custom table. Based on the feedback that a lot of customers were looking for, as an example, standard sorting as you used to do in Excel, a column independent sorting. So as an example, being able to sort on net value, being able to sort on product category without having to sort the product group. The table comes with an integrated search. It comes with alerting capabilities which work data source independent. You can define the alerting in the dashboard. It comes with the ability to add a calculation either based on a single measure, for example a ranking, or based on 2 measures in case you want to build a variance. We also added now to our utilities a KPI tile, and you can see here a few examples. Our KPI tiles allow you actually to integrate a few things. So you can see you have the title, such as sales revenue. You have a subtitle, such as year to date. You have the ability to integrate icons. You have the ability to actually configure an alert and define a threshold for this alert. You have the ability to integrate a unit, as you can see here, such as the US dollars. Obviously the value itself, and last but not least, the ability to integrate our sparkline chart actually into the KPI tile itself, as you can see here, a line chart, an area chart, or a bar chart. As I mentioned to begin with, another item we added as part of this release is the ability to use Excel as a data source. Very often customers were asking for a simple way to start prototypes without having to completely rely on HANA or BW for the project, and simply actually sometimes just mock up a dashboard based on data so that the business user gets an idea of what is possible. But also, we heard very clearly from customers that there are Excel spreadsheets that they would like to use as a data source, which is why actually our components do support the spreadsheet as a data source. So if you would like to have your Excel spreadsheet and would like to use a chart, you can do that. We do support local spreadsheets, we do support Google spreadsheets, and we also do support the ability to share the spreadsheet via Dropbox. Another component we added is the ability to export your dashboard. Being able to actually export it into PDF, we're allowing you to influence certain settings, such as the orientation. You can define a header and a footer text. You can decide if you would like to see page numbers, if you would like to see the dates. We also allow you to add a comment before you export. So think about perhaps you're looking at the dashboard and you would like to clarify certain items, so you can actually add a quick comment to the dashboard, export it, the comment will be visible in the PDF file, and then you could actually send out the PDF to ask for some clarifications. But also our PDF export has a very interesting feature, which is the user has the ability to select which components should become part of the PDF itself. The user can export the complete dashboard, but the user can also decide, for example, to only choose the chart and not the table. Now, this might not sound very interesting to start with, but imagine you're looking at a dashboard that has a chart, a table, a list box, and a few buttons. And I'm sure that most of you would like to actually remove perhaps the buttons from the PDF so that you really only get the chart and the table. And that's exactly why we created this option, so that the user has the choice to actually decide which elements he would like to include. One of my favorites is actually the hierarchical items we added into this release. So you can see, and I will show this in the demo as well, we added a true hierarchical filter. That's one of the key components that right now is missing in Design Studio. For those who are already working with Design Studio, you probably noticed that elements such as the list box, such as the combo boxes, they do not support hierarchies out of the box, which is why we created this ability to have a hierarchical filter, which comes with the option to actually ask for things like children, parent, descendants. So you really can select, for example, the node North America and ask for the children, which in this case would be Canada and United States. You can ask for the parent, which would be the world. You can ask for the descendants, which would basically in this case as well Canada and United States. We also added the ability to do a hierarchical drill down. So as you can see, our charts do offer the hierarchical drill down. In this release, we support this with the pie charts, the column charts, the bar charts, the funnel, and the pyramid, and we will actually enhance that in the future version. Now, coming to my true favorite in this release, I have to say this would be the what-if scenario. In case you're actually familiar with Excelsius, now called dashboards, probably you played around with the what-if scenario in Excelsius, and you liked the idea of how easy it was to actually set it up. This is exactly what we're allowing you to do now in Design Studio. We're allowing you to very, very quickly create a simple or a more advanced scenario inside Design Studio, and with a simple navigation, run a scenario in your dashboard. As an example, if my cost would go down by 5%, how would that influence my profit overall? those actually scenarios are now possible with this component. Now, before we go and actually take a look what might come next as part of our roadmap, I want to really highlight a few items and give you an idea how easy these things are and how easy these things are to use. So let me navigate over to my system. So here we are in Design Studio now. I'm using Design Studio 1.5, and let's start with our location analyzer, so the mapping part. So you can see here the additional properties. As you can see, we have the ability to actually create different kind of layers. We do support the option to have marker layers, cluster layer, and heat layers. You can have multiple of these layers, so you're not limited to one marker layer or one cluster layer. And you can actually configure, as you can see, for example, here, filter dimension for these different layers so that you can define each of them individually. Think about you have different products and perhaps you would like to use different color coding to highlight those products. Remember, I mentioned that we integrated the option to navigate now from our map to a business object system, and as you can see, we can configure actually the navigation. We do support Crystal Reports, Web Intelligence, Analysis, and Design Studio, and we're actually able to hand over, if we want to, the complete context of where the user is coming from. Now, how does this look when we execute this? Let me quickly run this here in the system. And we will see, let me quickly execute this again. So here we are, the map is being rendered. We're going to see the different layers, and we're also going to see one of the key items of our maps. We do allow the user at runtime, if the dashboard designer enables it, to decide which of the different layers he would like to see. In my case, you can see I would, let's say, switching of the markers, which means I'm only going to see the heat layer. Perhaps I'm more interested in the cluster layer. Perhaps I want to stay with the markers. So if I now go and actually select one of the markers, I click on it, and I'm navigating to my report, which is automatically filtered down to exactly the scenario that I was listing for based on the marker. So now let's take a look at another example. As I mentioned, we also do support more regional based maps. Here you can see a world map, and I plotted my revenue onto the different countries. Now, the important part of this map, I will show you quickly the data source. You will notice that not only does my data have the country, but my data also has products. And I'm actually able to add a non-geographic dimension and integrate it as part of the navigation with the map. So I'm executing this one as well. And you will notice the world map comes up, and it has the typical feature that I can hover over the different countries and it shows the information. But in addition, if I select, for example, the United States, you will now see an additional chart showing the revenue broken down by product groups. And if I select multiple countries, you will quickly see that I can now compare actually these products and the revenue along multiple countries. So my map now also becomes the option to really act as a starting point for my analytics, so I can compare the different countries along a third dimension. Now let me go to the next item, and let's execute this dashboard as well. And you probably already noticed we have a few components in this dashboard. First of all, you can see our KPI tiles. As I mentioned, we have the option to integrate sparkline charts. We have the option to integrate alerts. They are dynamic. They can be based on the value. They can be based on the chart values. You have the option to have icons. On the right-hand side, you see the WhatIf panel. And we will take a look at how easy it is to define it in a second. You see our chart shows basically our revenue, here the net value, we see the cost, we see the profit. On the right hand side, we have the panel which quickly allows me now to influence the number. So if I want to know how my profit would look like if, for example, my cost would go down by 10%, I simply say I want to go down to 90, and I quickly see how this would impact my overall chart. I do have the option to either manually enter the values, or I can actually use the sliders. I do have the option, in case I have multiple components, to do this on an individual level, as shown here, or I can do this on a global level, as I did already. You can also see we now have the ability to actually color code the sliders so that the user quickly can identify also visually which numbers are being influenced here. Important, I want to highlight, we are not changing actually the underlying data. We are not writing back the data into your system, so you don't have to worry that we kind of like overwriting your data. This is a scenario based where we're allowing you to simply run this as part of your dashboard. So before I go to the next component, let me quickly show how easy this can be done. Here's the component. First of all, you can see the component is assigned to a data source. Based on the data source, the component allows you to select which measure you would like to be able to influence. So if we go in and say we would like to influence, for example, the profit, we're allowed to select a color. We're allowed to select, do we want to influence it based on percentages or absolute values? If I use absolute values, I can have positive and negative values. For percentages, I can set a range that I'm giving the user in where the user actually has to basically choose. And then I can add it, and pretty much that is all that there is to do to simply actually create this kind of panel allowing the user to influence the numbers. The second option is a more advanced scenario where we are allowing the user to first of all create their own factors. Think about perhaps you want to influence a growth rate, but the growth rate is not part of your data source. And we're giving you the option to create simple calculations which are then being added to the dashboard as part of the chart or as part of the component that you selected. So now coming back to my last quick demo here, one of my favorites, and I think I'm just going to actually execute it and explain what it does. So for those who are already using Design Studio and have worked on a few projects, you will notice that Design Studio today does not have a hierarchical filter. And this is exactly what we created here. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have a true hierarchy, and we can navigate, we can open and close the different nodes, and you can see we select the nodes, we can keep drilling until we basically see the different leaves. We also have the option to select levels, a different option to filter the data. But most important, this component does have scripting, and I'm simply showing it as part of these buttons here, and I can show the scripting in a minute, which allows me to actually filter different options. So I selected Europe. If I actually go and say I would like to select the children, you will see it's going to give me the 3 nodes below Europe. If I'm going to say descendants, you will see the list of items that I'm outputting here in a text field, just to show you what this would be, is actually the complete list of nodes and leaves below. If I select the parent, I just get 1 item. So this filter does actually give you those options to really kind of like use hierarchical elements as part of your dashboard and filter based on the hierarchical selection, things like children, things like descendant, things like parent. So how does this look like at design time? Let me simply open up, for example, the element of children. So I'm going to open up the script, and you can see what I'm actually doing here is, first of all, I'm actually assigning the selected item, but in this case selected children, to an array. So all of the items are actually stored in arrays, so that if you want to use them as a filter to another data source, you simply have to point it to this array. We do have the option to either select the internal key, the external key, or the text. To show, I can simply actually open up the list of script functions here very quickly. For those who are into Design Studio, you can see you have the option selected children, selected descendants, selected members, selected parents. So pretty much you're actually able to do all the different items that you need for the hierarchical filtering. So let me go back to my slides and just wrap up a little bit before we open it up for questions. So first of all, I also want to talk about the licensing, because for those who are interested in Design Studio extensions, you might already have started looking for it, and depending on, you hear different licensing models. For us, we basically decided that we're actually going to with a one-time licensing fee. So we are not going to ask you to purchase things like per user or per server, or for your development environment, plus for your QA, plus for your production environment. It's a simple one-time licensing fee plus an annual maintenance of 20%, which is including all future versions. The maintenance fee does also cover your support. So we do have people around the world that are actually going to ask you a question, that's going to help you in case there's any kind of problems. To give you a quick indication, and I'm not going to kind of like go into like a sales pitch now, but in case you're interested to purchase the complete suite of components is selling for $25,000 per customer. So this is a one-time licensing fee. In case you're interested, you can actually go to our website. You can see visualbi.com/dsx-trial. You simply register, and we're going to send you then a link where you can download the installation, where you can download the software, and the version 2 is already up on our website, so you can actually use it. And there's no functional limitation, so you can completely use all the different features. You get the complete suite, all the charts, all the maps, all the utilities. The only limitation is really the time. You have 30 days, and after that, it basically goes back to, it's locked down, and you have to basically use the standard components. Now, before I open up for questions, I want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek. You can see our roadmap right now. We are in the middle. This is basically our second release that we just actually announced. What are some of the things we're looking at? And you can see, first of all, the timeline, which is September. So we're looking at a 3-month period. We're going to add additional charts. but also we're going to add things like trend lines. We're going to do full hierarchical support. This means expand, collapse, full drill down. We're going to have a very easy way, not just the conditional formatting, but also a very simple way of actually assigning colors to members of your dashboard. On the maps, we're going to support for GeoJSON on top of JSON, that in case you have the need for your own custom definition, we can very quickly add that to our mapping. And then the two other areas on the selectors site, we're actually extending our concept of selectors with alerts, and we're going to have a multi-select list box, we're going to have a combo box, we're going to have a facet filtering. For those who've used Explorer before, think about a faceted filtering. And we're going to have a typical date slider. Think about a dashboard where actually daily sales data, and you simply go from one day to another on a little kind of like slider. On the utilities side, we have two very interesting topics. One, we're working on an export into PowerPoint, and we're actually going to work on an export into Outlook. So that allows you to simply take your dashboard into a PowerPoint or simply integrate it into an email. And last but not least, we're looking into the option of building a responsive container. For those who are a little bit into mobile, think about the idea of you looking at a dashboard and you have your iPad in portrait, but now you're moving your iPad into a landscape mode, and the dashboard not only actually changes the orientation, but it does adjust because it has a different screen size now. So this is really all I had, and I would like to actually just take a look at the questions. Let me quickly go into the questions panel. I see some people entered a few questions here, and I'm going to just read them out loud and give you answers on them as good as I can. And sorry for my little struggle here somehow. There it is. So here are the questions. So first of all, the question is, are the slides shared? Absolutely. So this webinar is recorded. We're going to share the video. We're going to share the slides. And in case you were registered, we automatically sending you an email where you can find all these, and it goes on our website. So Licia asked the same question. Yes, so the slides will be shared. The next question, pricing. So we do have a very simple pricing, as I mentioned. We have a price for the complete package, which includes all our components, or per category. So remember, we have the charts, we have the maps, the selectors, and the utilities. The complete package is $25,000 US per customer. There's no user limit, there's no system limit in there. You basically, it's a one-time licensing fee. In case you're interested in only one package, each of the packages sells for $7,500 US. On top of this price, there's basically a 20% annual maintenance fee, which covers any future versions, and it covers the support. The next question from Alex. Are these extensions fully compatible with the SAP Business Objects platform, which is the lower compatible version? So first of all, yes, we do support all the different deployment options of Design Studio. So this means Business Objects, HANA, or BW. And we do support the versions that Design Studio supports. And right now, our components supporting Design Studio release 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. So that's the releases, and that's the Business Objects version that SAP supports for these releases is what we also support. Then there's another question from Alex. Can you customize maps? For example, instead of using country maps, define custom zones with polygons. So Alex, yes, that can be done. There are two ways. Today, we can create custom maps for you. We do have the capabilities, or you can create those maps yourself with the tool. That is option number one. Or option number two is in basically 2 to 3 months, we will have the ability to support GeoJSON, or Tuple.json would be an alternative. And you could actually create your GeoJSON definition and actually hand it to our map, and our map would then leverage your definition, and you would then be able to plot the data, for example, from HANA or BW onto the map. There's another question from Philip, and Philip, I'm very sorry that it seems to be cut off the question. It stops at number off, so in case you actually perhaps want to put the question in again, I will definitely answer it. There's another question from Philip. Regarding the hierarchical filter, is it possible to show a number of included detail values in brackets? Philip, that is absolutely a great point. It is not possible to die, but it is already on the list to basically show how many, for example, nodes or leaves actually are inside. It could be achieved because you do have the elements in an array, so basically you could, if you want to, count them, but obviously we want to make it easy for you, and that is already on the list. There's another question from Lysia. Do your extensions also work with Lumira? So not today. We do have a team also working on Lumira extensions. The SDK is slightly different. The Lumira SDK today is very focused on actual visualizations. So for example, something like a filter around dates is not possible via the SDK today, but we are working on bringing in our maps, bringing in our charts into Lumira as well, and you should see those coming soon on the market. There's another question from Tammy. Do we re-register for the trial? So yes, in case you already did register for version number 1, you can simply come to our website pretty much after this webinar if you want to. You can use the same name that you used to register for version 1, and we will then send you the updated version with another 30-day to now use version number 2. There's a question from Jim. How about a sub-dashboard that could be based into a container on a main dashboard? I think, Jim, this is the idea of what I mentioned with the responsive container. We're trying to basically develop a container where you would put components or multiple components or a panel, and now then these items should be responsive, meaning if you change actually the whole direction, portrait landscape, or if you go from an iPhone to an iPhone Plus, that the dashboard adjusts. The next question from Lee, if you've purchased the DSX tools, where can we download the newest version? So for our existing customers, you are pretty much getting this week an email where you get the updated version. You should see this coming automatically during this week. Then there is the question, will you be able to support Lumira in Design Studio? Kuhn, I'm not 100% sure if I get the question right, so in case I don't, please clarify it perhaps. We do support, we're working on getting our extensions into Lumira, yes. Design Studio does have the option to basically export now into Lumira. Right now, this would not work with our extensions, but as soon as our extensions are available for Lumira, that would be possible then as well. There's a question of Sutapa. Will Visual BI components work in Web Intelligence and Lumira? As I mentioned just before, the Lumira we are working on, we do not have plans to build these extensions for Web Intelligence as well. So we are focusing right now on Design Studio and Lumira. There's another question from Lee. Can you clarify if the map allows for displaying alerting conditional formatting as well as the geo marker? I assume we are talking about, for example, showing red markers if the profit is below a certain item. That is not possible in the maps today. It is on the list as kind of like an alerting capability, similar to what we do with other selectors that we have. What's the turnaround to build a simple dashboard? That's a very good question, Lesia. I can tell you that we are actually offering, for example, what we call a data visualization package, a starter package, where we offer to come to you, work with you, and actually hand, after 5 days, a dashboard to you. So that perhaps answers the question a little bit. Next question from Kuhn. So the user can do Lumira Actions in Design Studio Scenario. Now you already have the online composition. Yes, so there is online composition in Design Studio. I'm not sure what the question is. So there are both scenarios available. There's the next question from Gopal. All the charts that were in the demo, how does it work on tablet? So all our components do support the mobile BI version of SAP. So we do actually support all these things. Also, for example, the WhatIf Analyzer on a mobile device. There's another question from Brian. Early on in the presentation, there were map components. That other one looked to be a necessary object for drill down. So you might have seen it when I showed the actual demo. So we do actually have the ability to navigate from the maps to business objects. So it's not report interface. It is basically our integration with Open Document, which then allows you to basically navigate to any of the reports on the business object site. So I think the question from Daniel we did answer. So we talked about the pricing. There's a question from Anil. Can we make comments on chart? That is not possible today, only during the export because our PDF does support it. There's another question from Lydia. Yes, we do support dynamic visibility. It's something the components actually do in Design Studio. So then there's another comment from Kuhn. So Kuhn, I'm not 100% sure what really the question is. Perhaps you can clarify that at the end. So Oscar, the question, yes, the new version is on our website. In case you did already register for version 1, you simply re-register and we will send you the item. There is a question from Narkizo. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Yes, we do have options that you work with us on different scenarios. In case you would like to become an OEM or a resale partner of us. Anil, the question, do we have plans to provide these kind of capabilities in Web Intelligence? Right now, the answer is no. The focus is on Lumira and Design Studio for obvious reasons, because that is also the focus of where SAP is going. Can we combine a crosstab with graph components? So Philip, I assume we are talking about the table that I presented and the chart. So our chart and our table do basically support the different data sources that you have, and you do also have the option, like for example, grab like what was selected in the chart and hand it over as a filter. So that is possible. There's a question of Femke. Do you look into extra functionalities on data sources as well, connecting to CSV or universes? Universes, no, because that is already part of Design Studio. CSV, yes, as I mentioned in the presentation, we do support Excel spreadsheets, so you could easily take your CSV file and compare it into the Excel file. The last few questions, there's a question of Alex. Nowadays, there's a problem with hierarchies and crosstabs. For example, using variances gives an error with higher nodes. Only shows the value was the lowest level. Alex, I'm not 100% sure which exact problem you're referring to. Basically, the component I showed was a hierarchical filter. We do have a table as well, which actually shows hierarchies as well, and you can define your own alerting. There's another question from Philip. Number of rows, is there a limit? Yes, right now there is a limit, which is basically has just been lifted 2 days ago from SAP, and we are basically in the stages of doing benchmark testing, and will then lift our limits as well as part of a patch. So then there's a question from Jim. So it looks like you wanted to load a completely different app from Design Studio in a container. That is not possible. I assume you're referring to what Excelsior was doing, having one Excelsior object and another. That is not possible in Design Studio right now. And we're running out of time, and I will answer these questions on our website as well, so don't worry, we will answer it. Just like 1 or 2 items. What's the advantage of Design Studio over dashboards and Web Intelligence? So first of all, Design Studio is clearly the strategic direction of SAP. Design Studio will not get investment anymore. That has been very clearly stated by SAP. So you should move to Design Studio. Design Studio Web Intelligence is a very different use case. The one is dashboarding, the other one is reporting, so it's not really easy to compare. Now, Kuhn, last item, take LUM files into Design Studio as a data source to enable the end user access to Lumira visualizations instead of accessing Lumira server on. Okay, I'm not 100% sure really. Kuhn, doesn't seem to be that there is a question. And Femke, yes, I know there's no ability to edit the universe in Design Studio, but right now we're not planning to build the universe connection simply because that is on the list by SAP, including what you're describing as the functionality. I can only suggest to go to the roadmap. SAP mentioned when this is actually coming. We are out of time. As I mentioned, I will clearly take all the questions. We will answer them as part of basically the material we are sharing. So we will share the slides, we will share the video, and we will share the question and the answers. So you can also come back to our website and see the answers there. I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today, for taking part of this webinar. I hope it was worth. And in case you could spare just another quick minute, perhaps you could actually give us the feedback on how you did like this webinar and if you were happy with it or not. And with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone and wish you a wonderful day.